Welcome to the Rosenfeld Review. Lou Rosenfeld here. I'm joined today by another speaker at this September's Design Ops Summit, which is taking place virtually September 23rd through 25th. Paul de Guzman, welcome to the Rosenfeld Review.
Thank you very much for having me here.
It's great to have you. And for those of you listening, JP is going to talk about becoming a data-driven design organization, and he's going to talk about it in the context of his own company, Frost Design and Consulting Group, which is in Manila in the Philippines. And JP's bio talks a bit about how his work has impacted millions of Filipino, and that sounds really pretty interesting. I've been around for a long time, and I like to, at some point in my career, feel like I've affected tens of thousands of people. You're already at millions. So what are you doing that that got your work in front of millions of people?
Yeah. Okay. So in Frost, we're fortunate to design and in fact redesigned the number one FinTech app in the country, Gcash. So automatically it affects 90 million to boot. That's a big responsibility. That's one of our major work. But prior to that, I've also worked with a digital rehaul a digital rehaul of one of the largest telco in the country, globe in the midst of the global pandemic. So we did the entire digital experience from ground up to
Wow.
accommodate that kind of setup. So
So telco and then fintech.
yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
That's all. Yeah, I could see how you have millions of users. Well, and have you, like for one of the things for me that's really interesting about this industry in general is the sort of way, the route, the path that people take into it. So, like, whereas an old guy like me, when I got into UX 30 whatever years ago, it was very much self-teaching. And now, certainly in North America, there's a lot of university programs that are churning out graduates. Certainly, there've been a lot of boot camps. It's become more formalized. What's the path like? Well, how's it been for you in the Philippines? Has it been more of a teach yourself or more formal training? How did you get here?
Yeah. Okay. So in the context of the talent supply in the country and how people get into UX or UI design in this case, most of them would come from the university, but they're only going to cover a bit of multimedia design. So UI is not really part of this big curriculum that you're going to focus on that. Sometimes it's you have courses like graphic design
Hmm.
and everything in between. It's just UI is just a subset of that course. Now, as soon as graduate starts entering into the workplace, they're shocked that UI design is a totally different discipline altogether.
Hmm.
So there's a big gap between what the talents are expecting, what they can do, and then what the industry is trying to cater or the needs of the industry. So the key thing how we got here, and most of the talent are pretty much self-taught. So there's a lot of chunk in the talent pool that really you have to either read through the internet, watch YouTube videos, and only a fraction are able to have mentors that would guide them along the way. It's just so fortunate. Maybe I'm just one of the old guys in the industry here, specifically in the Philippines, who were able to see the evolution of this craft and practice. So now we're able to help juniors to go through this career on a more systematic approach, like not like what we have back then where you have to throw spaghetti on the wall and see what
Hmm.
sticks. So basically that's how I got here. I was really from a web design background. So lately did I know that there's a UX and then a UI.
Hmm.
So that's how I transition and work my way through in this.
And then you started a company. It sounds like you started it with your wife,
Mhm.
and uh, And now you're speaking at the Design Ops Summit about not only creating a design organization
Mhm.
that's obviously impacting millions of people in the Philippines, but a data driven design organization. Well, that can mean a lot of things, right?
Yeah,
So,
correct.
how would you, first of all, say it? What does it mean to be data driven for your organization?
Okay, so let's break this down. Maybe I'll try to contextualize it first so that it gives you a bit why we arrive at this seemingly paradoxical idea of being creative and data driven, because those are totally different contexts when you say it. So number one, considering the talent that we have to deal with, right? In my case, when we were starting a company, one of the major item that was raised to me is how are you going to sustain the organization by having limited talent pool? That was the first critical thing that I have to answer. Yes, I'm a practitioner, I design, but how can I sustain it that I can teach it with juniors and then thrive by doing it? That led me to a lot of experimentation, how to really uh, formalize the way I would teach the craft into these juniors so that they can somehow acclimate the right practice that would sustain us over time. So, but that's on the practice side. But in order for me to actually do it and try to contain the challenge by when you add more people, quality starts to they start to degrade.
Hmm.
That's also a challenge. Plus, not because you have more talent means you can produce more. In fact, there's a downside to having so much talent at your disposal. Either some people are just too busy, or some people may look like busy but they're not really productive. So there's a lot of factors that I have to deal with because I'm dealing with juniors with no seniors to confide with. So this is where my exploration began in then trying to figure out, can I really find a way to systematize this entire data design thing? And as funny as it is, one of the things that I hated the most is being asked, how long will this design take? A common question that most designer would dread.
Hmm.
So imagine if I hate that, what more will my juniors would feel? They will either give me a wrong number or a number that they think that I would like. And I feel that it doesn't really get to a point where I want it to be. So we end up having either delayed commitments or totally unrealistic commitments with our client. So either the two. Plus the time that you need to spend are totally sometimes it's incomprehensible. Why do we need to spend so much time with one activity over the other? So this led me to so many uh, years and years worth of journey to really find formulas. I studied statistics for some for some odd reason, just to find if there's a formula that I can get.
So, before you get into the formula, this
Sure.
is an issue not only for, I imagine, the people on your team to better understand not only working with each other, but what to expect
Mhm.
from themselves, how long they might need, and so forth. You're trying to quantify their work in ways that make it easier for them to manage. But I got to imagine your clients are the ones that really want to know how long things are going to take and
Oh
why,
yeah, oh,
and are really, maybe that's the
definitely.
real push. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's really that trying to always answer that question from the client. Are we done? Are we there yet?
Hmm.
Can we finish tomorrow? If I add this, can you still accommodate? And when you answer these kinds of questions, it's either you know it or you try to guess it in one way or the other. And I don't want to be in that position because number one, it would compromise the way we deliver a service. And then number two, I have to also take into consideration the people who's going to do the work.
Right.
And then, yeah, so there's a lot of balancing act on that side. So again, I tried a lot of approach from statistical sampling to looking into trends and the like. And in Frost, it's just so happened that we're disciplined enough to track a lot of things that we do. So from tracking time, we're able to understand the pattern. How much time do we really spend? What are the gaps between those activities and those kinds of nuance on the work. But I think that's incomplete because we're just tracking time. The big breakthrough really was to track workflows. Where is the work in the context of the process that we do? That's where it opens up the magic for us. Now, if a client would say, can you finish at this time? My first response would be, there's an 85% chance that we can finish it at this time because we need to consider now that you have certain delays on this time in this particular process.
Oh, so this is where
There's
your
a gap there.
statistical analysis comes in.
Yeah.
At each point where there's a delay that has a ripple effect later on in the process, and it's expressed in probabilities. Got it.
Yes. Right. So even if we don't even need to ask anymore for estimates from our team. We can just look at all our historical data and then run it through a model. And we can say, okay, if we start at this state, we can probably finish this on or before this particular date at this level of certainty. So it's because of the way we track and track this data and then use them into our benefit that we're able to really understand not only the flow of the work, but also the nuance of how the work is being done. So there's a lot of layers that goes into that understanding what creative work really means. And that's where me get excited to talk about it for quite some time.
So
Yeah.
so that's fascinating, and I want to come back to how you actually set up tooling to support this. And I know you're
Mm.
doing quite a bit there, but there's a big assumption underlying this that you understand the task flow and can map it out well enough to not only accommodate all the known variables, but all the unknowns as well.
Yeah.
And I know that
How,
a probabilistic approach does help you accommodate a lot of the unknowns. That's part of the point of it, if I understand
correct.
it, and I'm not a
Mhm.
statistician. But I mean, like that is the foundation, right? Like understanding and modeling how things should ideally go.
Mhm. Correct. Maybe the question there is how,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so this comes in multiple iterations. So I think currently our workflow is already at its third iterations. And at first, the approach really is to, and we use Kanban for all the work, the work, our workflow tracking. We use Kanban.
Hmm.
So the good thing about that is one of the principles is to visualize the workflow. It doesn't have to be perfect, and then it doesn't have to be well defined at first. So we just need to put everything and how the workflow from one stage over the other, and then observe if it's really reflecting what it is from reality because it needs to match. If not, why do we have to do certain things? And then as time goes by, we try to cut it down and then identify what are really the essential parts of the work that we really have to do. So for example, in a UI design, the first one would be someone is going to work on it, right? And then someone also needs to submit it for review. But the good thing here in the way we do it, there are two levels of review. A peer reviewer, a co-designer will review the work and then submit it and do the revisions. As soon as they agree to that, it goes into its final review, which is someone at the top that goes into the client. So by doing this over and over again, we saw reliability of the process. It gives us the pattern and then the timings and all. So that's on the work side stream. So designers doing their work like a normal day-to-day work. But there's the other side where the context of the work in the how it relates to the entire process from start to finish. And this is where things get exciting because this is where you can see bottlenecks, where you see while certain work are piling up is
Hmm.
not because maybe some people are not capable of doing the work, but there's so many factors that affects that. So we're able now to map those process from start to finish, and then really see and identify what are the time, how much time does it take for one work to cross from one item to the other. So it's easy now to visualize everything in a more, either we can zoom in or zoom out and we still get the answer that we need. So there.
That's exciting. I wish this wasn't just a podcast. I wish we could actually look at the zooming in and out and have a look at the process. And I know you'll probably
Mhm.
do a bit of that when you present at the Design Ops Summit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, well, this is a good moment for a break. After the break, I think we should dig into some of those unknowns, like maybe how
Sure.
you've taken some of those initially unknown variables and maybe they're more known now thanks to your process. And let's also we'll talk a little bit about the how. I think the
Yeah,
tooling
sure.
that's behind all this is going to be very interesting to our listeners. So everyone, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. We're talking with the JP de Guzman, and we'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browser interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Welcome back. Hope you like Rosenfeld Review. Lou Rosenfeld talking with JP de Guzman, who will be speaking at the 2024 Design Ops Summit, taking place virtually September 23rd through 25th. I think this is one of the really nice things about doing virtual conferences is we can have someone like JP join us from Manila in the Philippines, and it's a piece of cake, assuming the connection
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't go down. But JP, we were just talking about your journey to becoming a data-driven design organization and how you introduced probabilistic analysis at each step of the way. After you mapped out your rough process, and how that's really helped you get your arms around a real big challenge that a lot of people in the industry struggle with, which is managing time. So I thought we could dig a little bit more deeply into that. Let's talk a little bit about the tooling. Like, how are you doing this? I know you're using some conventional tools. Can you give us the rough picture of how you
Okay.
you are tooling up to build in this probabilistic analysis?
Okay. So at the base of all of this, we're just using your trusty old Trello to do all of this, right? We're just using Trello and then Figma. But what we've done with Figma is an interesting one. So one of the hardest thing about doing this would be like in any Kanban would be you need to file cards. You need to create cards in Trello and put it there so that people can move in, those work. But we found that that's labor intensive. Let me give you a bit of statistics here. So a typical card with the proper labels, proper name, with thumbnails would naturally take 2 minutes a piece, right? That's a job of a PM to do. But imagine our work would naturally have 1,500 to 3,000 cards on a good
Hmm.
day, right? That's much of the volume of cards that moves through our board. So if we just do a simple math there, that would take a PM. That's the only thing that you're going to work with every day for the next 30 days. And we found out now that's going to be impossible. If we're going to do that, we're going to waste the PM's time, the project manager's time.
Hmm.
So we created a tool in Figma. We just need to write and type the comment, like track, and then identify the work that we need to do. And then at the end of that, as soon as you press enter, all of that will be sent to our backend, and then create the cards automatically and put it into Trello. The task name will be categorized by an AI. So we don't need to put labels anymore. The AI does the work and the categorization for us. It identifies who's the team that's going to work on that. And then finally, what lane will it be? Will be launched. So it can be icons, etc. Right? So no additional work is needed. We just need to put it on Figma, and everything happens at the back. So that's one. So the administrative side, that's how it's handled. But the next part there is, and another time suck would be moving the cards across the workflow. So imagine a designer having to shift from Figma to Trello just to move the card. And you can imagine this with a UX designer, or regardless of whatever work that is. And that takes a bit of context switch. If you add them up together, it takes a lot of time. And this is the reason why a lot of people can't really capture thing in real time, because of that switch. Nobody wants to track their work because it's cumbersome. It's additional work. So to remove all of that, we just put everything into Figma and type the commands there using comment, and that comment will just naturally move the cards
Mm.
across the board. Nobody needs to switch anymore. We know exactly where the work is. And in fact, all of these things, earlier I told you 2 minutes per card, we can do and perform everything here in just a fraction of 30 seconds. Everything else is already there. So you can imagine the amount of work that was squashed from the 2 minutes to 30 seconds, right? That's a big marginal difference in terms of impact. So
Times
what more can
again
they
and again and again.
Exactly, right? So it that gives us a lot of room to focus on what matters rather than tracking the work. We actually do the work
Hmm.
because nobody needs to switch things. And my team has been trained to do this with certain rigor and discipline. This is part of our day to day. And that's why, because we're able to do this, all our work can be tracked in real time. And you know the big advantage of this? Nobody needs to ask what the status of the work is. We
Hmm.
don't have status meeting in our company. Because why do we need to ask, where's the work? Where's this? Are you done with this? No, it's really transparent in the board. And RPMs, I know I was joking with my wife. One of the things that maybe RPMs are missing is asking our teams, where's the work? Nobody needs to do that. We don't need to do status reports anymore. Uh, Down from reporting, so from the tracking of work, it goes and flow through automatically, even through the reporting side. So we cut down a lot of the logistics and administrative side of things,
Hmm.
so that we can focus on designing, working on what truly matters, then do the busy work that eats up a lot of time.
So
So that's yeah.
yeah, and just to make sure I'm clear, like at a fundamental level, you're talking about like the atoms are tasks on cards. Can How granular are we talking?
Oh, yeah, okay. So this is an interesting thing that what we discovered. So for example, let's say you're doing a user flow, right? Normally from a uh, delivery level, it's just going to be user flow. However, when you really dig into this, it's not really just that. There's so many little things that goes with it that's left either to the imagination of the designer doing the work, but never captured. So to maybe contextualize it is, a single screen will normally have certain work packages under it. So
Hmm.
you have to design the screen, someone has to lay that out. Actually, someone has to create assets, icons, and such. You have to track all of those because they are part of a bigger deliverable. That's what we realize, that when you really look and dig deep into the work, it's not just a single package. It's a collection of elements. So we can go from a really large flow and then drill down to individual screen and down to the granular level, icons, alignments, and such. And we're able to track this in the context, not only in the work of the individual, but the work as a whole and where they are in the process. That's
That's
one of the biggest discovery that we're
that's
able to
amazing.
figure out.
But I guess as you're describing it, what I'm wondering is, do you find that there are certain aspects of the work that are either potentially hard to um, atomize, I guess, into discrete tasks, or are hard for AI to understand well because it's almost a different domain and requires a different
Mhm.
kind of training. So, for example, um, like content development, UX writing, that's an area that could be very different than maybe some of the UI related work, or UX research, another thing that could have a very different kind of domain, a different language associated with it, a different sort of uh, way of atomizing tasks, a different cadence to how the work flows alongside maybe some of the other types of design work. So, um, like, I'm wondering if these are some of the unknowns that you're still encountering.
Okay, yeah, okay. So this is an interesting case that we're even until now we're trying to understand. So one of the hardest thing that you want, that it's hard to capture, would be anything that deals with discovery. What Trying to figure out the what. The how is easy, but the what is harder.
Hmm.
For example, trying to come up with a solution to a product. How do you even capture that and put that into smaller tasks, right? Uh, UI writing or UX writing in that case. Sure, there's a writing component to it, but how about the thinking part that's far more abstract?
Hmm.
And yeah, we do struggle
Conceptual,
to
yep.
identify those. Yeah. But there's one rule that we've tried to apply. So here it is. If there's an output, you create a card. So you can identify this, that a conceptual work can be broken down into something tangible at the end. It can be a document, it can be a piece of user flow, whatever fidelity would that be. It doesn't really matter. The principle there, if there's an output, you track it. And then you try to understand at the rudimentary level what kind of work it is.
Hmm.
So really, the conceptual work, the hard one that's really tracked, is a combination of rudimentary works that's really basic in its principle, right? uh but can we really say with definitive stand that we've perfected the system? We're really far from it, because number one, UX is in its all of its depth and breadth. It's hard to track. And what the hell are you trying to track? Or doing art direction or creative direction, those alone, even from the visual standpoint, it's hard to break it down, because you'll never know if you're going to move left or right or whatever output there is. So there's going to be a limit to these kinds of systems, but at least we try to approximate something that's tangible, because
Hmm.
at the end for us, something tangible is far easy to defend, rather than the conceptual part, where can I take this, and we are always grappling with that kind of argument, abstract and something tangible. So yeah.
But it's, and I'm maybe poking holes just because uh, I'm not a very nice human being. Um,
Sure.
but the truth is, it sounds like you are um, solving this problem for understanding status and time, and really having a good view of uh, the work going on in your organization for a good part of the work that's being done. It doesn't mean,
Mhm.
even if it can't cover every little aspect of the process, it's still it's very impressive what you've done. And I like that you're framing it as also a use of AI that helps free people up to do the work.
Yeah. Hmm.
So good on you. It's fascinating. I wish we had more time. But the good news, if you're a design ops person or anyone who's managing a design organization in any way, I think you're going to want to show up at the Design Ops Summit in September. Show up virtually, of course. It's a virtual event. And listen to what JP is presenting about being a data driven design organization. This is just really quite fascinating, JP. Thanks for sharing it with us
Yeah.
today. Before I
Thank
let
you.
you go, I do have one more request from you. Speaking of sharing, I'd like to know what gift you brought for our listeners.
Okay. So, well, I do a free boot camps for designers, regardless of their levels. They can be junior, career shifter, or mid of their career. But what's fascinating there is that at the end of that, either they can be hired, or I sometimes refer them to other companies that I know that would give them a stamp of my approval. There you go.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. So it sounds like it's good for you, obviously, but either way, someone who
Mm,
participates, you're leaving them
yeah.
in a better
And it's
place than you
free.
found them.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
fantastic. Well, let's make sure we get the link to that in the show notes. And JP, it's been great talking with you, and I'm really inspired by your work, and I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation at the Design Up Summit.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lou.
We'll see you soon. Hey, it's Lou. Thank you for listening to the latest Rosenfeld Review podcast. I really appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. And if you want to pop me an email, lou@rosenfeldmedia.com, tell me what you thought. Better yet, leave me the hell alone and post a review on your favorite podcast platform. Please feed the algorithm. It really does make a difference. We want to get the word out. If you like the word, give us a hand. And while I'm asking you for favors, don't forget, buy books. Support your favorite local independent publisher. We happen to be one, rosenfeldmedia.com. All those great UX books are there. So, thanks again.